everybody. It's been about a month since I last uploaded and I apologize about that, but here I am today with a new spring crochet video just for you all. So I have a total of 3 different pieces in this video with 2 variations for one of the pieces, and I hope they all give you spring energy like I hope they do. Here is a little sneak peek of one of the pieces that I show you how to make in this video, which was completely free-handed and so easy to make actually, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. To get started, you're first going to measure the widest part of your hips. This is going to tell you how many squares you'll need to make. Each square on this skirt is 5 by 5 inches. For reference, my measurements for my hips is 35 inches. However, I only made squares up to 30 inches since crochet stretches. When I put the skirt on, it stretches to mold onto my body, so I recommend subtracting 5 inches from your hip measurement, which is basically making 1 square less than your measurements so that it won't be too big on your body. Then choose your preferred length for the skirt. For the skirt I'm making in this video, I made my skirt length 30 inches and my skirt width 30 inches. That is a total of 36 squares for the skirt, 18 moon squares and 18 regular squares. To get started with the moon squares, first create a magic circle with the purple yarn and chain 2. Then half double crochet 12 stitches inside the magic circle. Once you're finished with your 12 half double crochets, pull the tail of the ring to close the gap in the middle. Once the gap is closed, create a single crochet in the first stitch at the beginning of the circle. Then chain 1, cut the yarn and pull to secure. In the next stitch, next to that single crochet, you're going to attach your green yarn and create 1 single crochet in that next stitch. It's best to crochet around your yarn ends as you go so you won't have to worry about weaving them in later. For the next stitch, you'll add 2 half double crochets into the same stitch. In the next stitch, you'll add 1 half double crochet and then 2 double crochets into the same stitch. Then in the next stitch, add 3 double crochets. In the next stitch, add 2 double crochets and 1 half double crochet. In the next stitch, add 2 half double crochets. In the next stitch, add 1 single crochet. And in the next stitch, slip stitch into the stitch, then chain 1, cut the yarn and pull to secure. For the next row, insert your hook into the purple single crochet that was done earlier and attach your white yarn. Then chain 3. In that same stitch, add 1 double crochet. Then chain 2 and add 2 more double crochets all in the same stitch. In the next stitch right before the moon part of the square, add 1 double crochet. In the first stitch of the green section, add 1 half double crochet and continue that for 3 stitches. So 1 half double crochet in the next 3 stitches. Then you're going to create a corner section by adding 2 double crochets into the same stitch. Then chain 2 and add 2 more double crochets into the same exact stitch. In the next stitch, add a double crochet and then add 1 half double crochet into the next 3 stitches. You're going to create another corner section by again adding 2 double crochets into the same stitch, chaining 2 and adding 2 more double crochets into the same stitch. You're going to repeat the steps of adding 1 double crochet after the corner section, then 3 stitches of 1 half double crochet each, and then creating a corner section until there are a total of 4 corners before slip stitching into the first stitch you created for that row. Then chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. For the next row, attach your green yarn to any corner of the square and chain 2. Create 1 half double crochet into that same stitch. Then chain 2 and add 2 more half double crochets into that same stitch. Then you're going to half double crochet down the sides for the next 8 stitches. After 8 half double crochet stitches, you're going to create a corner section by adding 2 half double crochets into the next stitch, chain 2, and add 2 more half double crochets into that same stitch. After that, you're going to again half double crochet in the next 8 stitches. To create a corner again, you'll first add 2 half double crochets into the next stitch, then chain 2 and add 2 more half double crochets into the same stitch. Repeat these steps until you have a total of 4 corner sections complete. Once you reach the end of the row, slip stitch into the first stitch of the row, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. For the last row of the moon square, attach your white yarn to any corner of the square and chain 3. Create 1 double crochet into the same stitch. Then chain 2 and add 2 more double crochets into that same stitch. Then you're going to double crochet down the sides for the next 12 stitches. After 12 double crochets, you're going to create a corner section by adding 2 double crochets in the next stitch. Chain 2 and add 2 more double crochets into the same stitch. After that, again, double crochet in the next 12 stitches. To create a corner again, you'll first add 2 double crochets into the next stitch, then chain 2, and add 2 more double crochets into the same stitch. Repeat these steps until you have a total of 4 corner sections complete. Once you reach the end of the row, slip stitch into the first stitch of the row, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. Your square should look something like this. For the regular squares, you're only going to use the green color. With your yarn, create a magic circle. Then chain 3. After you chain 3, add 1 double crochet into the magic circle. Then chain 2. After that, add 3 double crochets into the magic circle and chain 2. Repeat this 2 more times. So for 2 more times, add 3 double crochets into the magic circle and then chain 2. After, add 1 double crochet into the magic circle. Then, pull the magic circle tail to close the large gap in the middle. Once the gap is closed, slip stitch into the first stitch of the row. You're going to continue to slip stitch gently into each stitch until you reach the chain 2 corner gap you made earlier. Slip stitch into the gap and chain 3. This starts your next row. Add 1 double crochet into that gap section, chain 2, and add 2 more double crochets into that same gap section. After, you're going to work 1 double crochet into each stitch until you reach the next corner gap section. Make sure you work into every stitch, even the one right before the corner gap. It might be a bit tight to work into, but try your best. Once you reach the gap section, add 2 double crochets into the gap, chain 2, and add 2 more double crochets into the gap. Repeat these steps until you reach the end of the row. At the end of the row, slip stitch into the first stitch of the row and continue to slip stitch until you reach the gap section. Slip stitch into the gap section and chain 3. You're then going to add 1 double crochet into that gap section, chain 2, and then add 2 more double crochets into that section. After that, work 1 double crochet into each stitch until you reach the next gap section. At the next gap section, add 2 double crochets into the gap, chain 2, and add 2 more double crochets into that same gap. You're going to repeat this until the end of the row and repeat the overall pattern until there is a total of 4 rows. Once there are 4 rows, slip stitch into the first stitch of the 4th row, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. Your square should look something like this. You're gonna make a total of 18 moon squares and 18 regular squares, more or less depending on your hip circumference measurement, minus 5 inches, and your skirt length preference. Once you have all the squares completed, it's finally time to put the skirt together. First, line up the squares widthwise and then lengthwise. In this clip, it shows I made my widthwise 7 squares wide, but I actually fixed it later and made it 6 squares wide. To start attaching the squares together, first take 2 squares widthwise and line them up with their backs touching. Make sure they're even and insert your hook into the back loop of the square closest to you, then insert your hook into the front loop of the second square behind it. Add your yarn onto your hook and pull it through. You're then going to slip stitch into each stitch just like that, working into the back loop of the first square and the front loop of the second square until you get to the end of the top corner. It should look something like this, and the back should look like this. I personally attach one row widthwise first before attaching everything lengthwise. Here is a clip of me measuring it out after attaching to show that it stretches, and the measuring tape shows that the squares, which was 30 inches, now shows that it's around 34 inches. It's also good to wrap it around the widest part of your hips before attaching all the squares in case you messed up on anything. But if everything is looking good, then go ahead and attach all the squares. Here's a clip of me attaching 2 squares to another 2 squares that I already attached. All I do is line them up, go into the corner stitches of the new squares, slip stitch, and continue slip stitching like normal. Here is another clip of me attaching the squares lengthwise with slip stitches already down some of them. I just slip stitch into every stitch I possibly can and continue over the slip stitch that was already done and continue working as normal. You don't have to do anything extra. Before slip stitching the skirt closed, I tried it on around my legs to see if I liked the length, and it was good enough to me, so I slip stitched the sides together and then tried it on again. The skirt might be big on your waist, so it's best to add a waistband for a drawstring and to make the top and bottom neater. To make the waistband portion, all you do is insert your hook into any part of the top of the skirt, then attach your green yarn and add 1 single crochet into the same stitch. You're then going to single crochet into every single stitch you can until you reach where you added the yarn in the beginning. For the little gaps, you can just skip over them and add a single crochet into the next stitch you see. Once you reach the end of the row, slip stitch into the first stitch and then chain 1. You can add a stitch marker if you want to remember where the row begins. For the second row, you'll be adding decreases into every stitch. So for the first stitch, work 1 single crochet decrease. Then for the next stitch, work 1 single crochet. You're going to repeat this over and over until the end of the row. Here's a single crochet decrease a bit slower since I tend to work really fast in the video. Once you reach the end of the row, slip stitch into the first stitch of the row and chain 1. For the third and last row, add 1 single crochet into each stitch until the end of the row. Once you reach the end of the row, slip stitch into the first stitch of the row, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. For the bottom of the skirt, you're going to do the exact same thing as you did for the top of the skirt, excluding the decreases. So attach your yarn onto any stitch on the bottom of the skirt, add 1 single crochet into the same stitch, and then work 3 rows of single crochet. After the third row, slip stitch into the first stitch, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. For the drawstring, all you're going to do is chain 150 to 201 chains. Then insert it into your tapestry needle and weave the drawstring in and out of your skirt's waistband every 6th stitch. This is just something I decided on, but you can add it to whatever stitches you'd like. At the end, after the last 6th stitch, I added it back to the front in the next stitch so that both ends could stick out in the front. And then the skirt is complete. But of course, have fun weaving in all your ends. For the mohair tie top, I combined this sequin silver thread with the mohair to give it a shiny look. It's not necessary, but I think it comes out really cute. To get started with the back panel, first create a slip knot, then chain until the chain is long enough to be slightly past your shoulders. For me, this is a chain of 50, but for you, it could be more or less. For reference, my shoulders are 15 inches wide. Once the chain is at the accurate measurement for you, you're going to double crochet into the first stitch of the chain. Continue working double crochets into each stitch until the end of the row. After the last double crochet of the row, chain 2 and turn your work. You're going to repeat this, double crocheting into each stitch and then chaining 2 at the end for a total of 21 rows. This will give you a cropped length, but you can continue making as many rows as you'd like if you want it to be longer. After 21 rows, once you finish the last double crochet, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. For the 2 front panels, you're going to chain 19. To figure out how much you need to chain exactly for the front panel, just divide the chain you did for the back panel by 3 and then add 3 to it. After chaining 19, work 1 double crochet into each stitch until the end of the row. At the end of the row, chain 20 and turn your work. You're going to repeat this pattern until you finish 21 rows or the amount of rows you decided on for your preferred length. At the end of the last row, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. Repeat this entire thing for a second front panel. To attach the front panels to the back panels, first place the front panels on the back panel. Then take a long piece of your yarn and insert it into a tapestry needle. Take your tapestry needle and insert it into the first stitch of the back and the front panels and pull the yarn through until there is a bit of a tail left out. Then go back into the stitches, sewing back and forth until the first front panel is attached. After, go ahead and weave in the rest of that yarn to any part of the top so the front panel can stay attached to the back panel. After that's weaved in, weave in the other tail from where you began to sew as well. The seam shows you whether it's the inside or the outside of the top. You want to make sure that the seam is like this on the outside of the project. For the arms, create a slip knot and then chain 38. This number I decided on randomly, but just wrap the chain around your arm until it fits as you desire and add or subtract chains based on that. Once you decide on a chain amount, work double crochets down the chain until the end of the row. At the end, chain 2 and turn your work. Repeat this for a total of 21 rows. At the end of the row, chain 2 and turn your work. On row 22, you're going to add 2 double crochets into the first stitch of the row. After that, continue down the row normally with 1 double crochet in each stitch. At the end of the row, chain 2 and turn your work. Repeat this again, adding 2 double crochets into the first stitch of the row. Then work 1 double crochet into each stitch until the end of the row. You're going to do this until the end of row 29. On row 30, work normal double crochets each row until row 33 or until the length is what you desire. At the end of the last row, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. To attach the arms, first make sure that the top is pulled inside out, making sure the seams are sticking out. Take a stitch marker and add it to the middle of the arm and the seam that connects the front and the back panels. You can add more stitch markers to keep the arm even to the other panels if you prefer. After, take your tapestry needle and insert a long piece of yarn to it and begin to sew the arms the same way you did the front and back panels, starting from the first stitch of the arms and going through where it reaches on the front or back panel and continuing down until it's completely attached. Weave in your yarn at the ends to make sure it stays together. To close the arms and the sides of the top, fold the top in half with the seams still sticking out. Then take a stitch marker and connect the armpits of the arm together to keep the arm aligned. Then start sewing from either the side of the top or the bottom of the arms. When you reach the stitch marker, just continue to sew like normal. You don't have to do anything differently. At the end, make sure to weave in the ends so that the arms don't come undone. When you're completely done sewing everything together, turn the top back to the right side or where the seams are not showing. To add the little bow in the middle, try on the top and add a stitch marker to your preferred location for the tie. take the top off and then insert your hook into the stitch where the stitch marker is. Then chain 101. After reaching 101, work 1 half double crochet into each stitch until you reach the end of the row. At the end of the row, slip stitch into a stitch next to where the chain started. Chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. Weave in any tails and repeat this on the other side of the top. This next part is optional, but I decided to brush my top to make it a lot more fuzzy. It's more fuzzy than what you see on screen, but all I did was take a normal brush I had in the bathroom and just brushed it until I was satisfied. There was no specific direction exactly that I did this in. I just brushed roughly, but not so rough that the top would fall apart. Once it was fuzzy enough, I added ribbons, which is also optional. I used about 40 inches of some random ribbon I found at Joann's and first tied it into a bow before poking my tapestry needle into the middle of it. Once the needle got through, I inserted the needle into where in the arm I wanted the bow to be and then pulled the tapestry needle through the bow so that my yarn can pull through, and then weaved it in the inside of the arm. It's a bit complicated to show and to explain, but I hope this made sense. But after all that, the top was complete. For this video, I made 2 shoulder bags. The blue one is large and the purple one is small. I only show how to make the purple since they both use the same exact pattern. The only difference is the straps and added decor, which I will explain later. To start the front panel of the bag, first chain 33 for the small bag or 43 for the large bag. After chaining, you're going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch for the entire row. At the end of the row, chain 1 and turn your work. You're going to repeat this for a total of 24 rows if you're making the small bag, or 33 rows if you're making the large bag. At the end of the last row, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. You're going to repeat this for the back panel as well. If you're making a bag without a flap, you can chain 1 at the end of the back panel, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. If you are making a flap, you're going to chain 1, but then leave the back panel alone for now. If you're making a strap for the small bag without any rings, all you're going to do is first create a slip knot and chain 6. Then you're going to work half double crochets into each stitch until the end of the row. At the end of the row, chain 1 and turn your work. You're going to repeat this for a total of 98 rows. At the end of the 98th row, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. If you're making a strap for the large bag with rings, repeat the same steps for the small bag, except instead of 98 rows, you're going to half double crochet 76 rows. You're then going to create 2 additional straps, which both start the same, but are only half double crocheted for 39 rows before you have to decrease. On the 40th row of the 2 additional straps, skip the first stitch and continue to half double crochet normally. On the next row, don't skip any stitches. On the row after that, skip the first stitch, then work half double crochet normally. Continue this until you're left with 2 stitches. Skip the first stitch and work a half double crochet until the next stitch. Then chain 1, cut the yarn and pull to secure. To attach the straps to the rings for the blue large bag, all you have to do is take the ends of the straps and pull it through the ring. I like to pull the beginning of the strap to the 7th row of the strap before using a stitch marker to hold it in place. I then take my tapestry needle and sew the strap to itself so that the ring is attached. Then I take one of the additional straps and do the same thing to the other side of the ring. For the small bag, to attach the straps to the front and back panel, take the front panel and one side of the strap and insert your hook into the first stitch of both. Then attach the purple yarn and pull it through before chaining 2. After chaining 2, add 5 half double crochets into the same stitch to begin the ruffles for the sides of the bag. Repeat this in every single stitch from the side of the front panel, the bottom of the front panel, all the way to the last stitch of the other side of the front panel. Once the strap is attached to the front panel, instead of doing ruffles for the rest of the strap, work 1 single crochet into each stitch until the end of the strap. Then chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. Repeat this to attach the strap to the back panel, making sure where you stopped working on the back panel is at the top of the bag, not being attached to anything, since that's where the flap is going to be. To add a flap to the bag, continue from where you left off on the back panel and continue working single crochets down the row until you create an additional 13 rows. On the 14th row, if you want to add a button to the flap, single crochet until where you would like the buttonhole to be and then chain 2. Then skip the next 2 stitches and single crochet into the 3rd stitch before working normal single crochets down the rest of the row. On the 15th and final row of the flap, work normal single crochets down the row. Once you reach the area with the buttonhole, work 2 single crochets into that gap before continuing to finish the rest of the row. At the end of the row, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. Then, to add ruffles to the flap like the sides of the bag, insert your hook into the first stitch of the side of the flap, chain 2, and insert 5 half double crochets into the same stitch. Then repeat this until the entire sides of the flap is covered. To close off the strap, slip stitch the ends of the straps together on the inside of the bag so that the seam doesn't show. Then weave in the ends so that the strap doesn't come apart. If you added a buttonhole, make sure to sew a button onto the front of the bag right underneath the buttonhole, and then the small bag is complete. To attach the straps to the blue bag, you're going to do it almost the exact same way as the other bag, but the only slight difference is that before you actually attach the strap to the front and back panels, you're first going to go ahead and start to add in those ruffle crochets for 2 stitches. So for the first stitch, you're going to add your 5 half double crochets. For the second stitch, you're going to add your 5 half double crochets. And then for the third stitch, you're going to insert your hook and go ahead and attach the back panel or the front panel to it, and then go ahead and start to continue the ruffles down for the side of the bag, the bottom of the bag, and the other side of the bag, and continue up until you reach where the ring is. And then you're going to stop at that last stitch right there. And then you're going to just repeat that for the other side to attach the strap both to the panel. And for the 2 straps at the top right here, all you're going to do is add 1 single crochet with the blue onto the sides of the straps, and then when you reach the top, you're just going to continue around and go all the way down until you reach the ring. And so doing that at the top will kind of give it this rounded look at the top after you had already done all of your decreases and everything. And then you just repeat that for the second strap. For the graph here, I don't show a tutorial because I had planned to do a different graph for the other bag, but it didn't come out so well. So that's why I never recorded doing this one. But then I also realized that I'm not really the best at explaining how to do graphs exactly. So I have linked below a couple of videos that teach you how to do graphs, as well as the specific graph that I used for this pocket. I have right here how many chains I did for this pocket here. And then after the graph is complete, all I did was single crocheted all around the square. And then in the next clip, I show you how to attach it to the bag. To attach the side pocket to the large bag, first place the square where you'd like it to be. Then take your tapestry needle and yarn and begin to sew along the edges of the square into the inside of the bag. You're going to sew in and out until you reach the top of the square. Then sew into the bag and then weave in the yarn in and out on the inside of the bag so the pocket doesn't fall off. Then your large bag is complete. I hope you enjoyed all of these easy spring projects. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!